March 15, 1942. Imperial Japanese Navy Headquarters, Tokyo, Japan. Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita placed the intelligence report on the mahogany table, his mouth curved in contempt. "Look at this," Kurita said, tapping the document with his index finger. "The Americans claim they will build 100 aircraft carriers." Captain Minoru Genda nodded, lighting his cigarette. "Impossible propaganda. They built 3 fleet carriers in 10 years. Commander Toshiro Yamada, Chief of Naval Intelligence, leaned forward with concern. "Admiral, American industrial capacity exceeded all projections in 1918. The Liberty ship program suggests," but Kurita waved him off. "We sank 4 of their carriers at Pearl Harbor and Coral Sea. We possess 10 fleet carriers and 15 light carriers. They have 3 operational fleet carriers." At Midway, Japan achieved 4-1 kill ratios. At Wake Island, 8-1. In the Philippines, 12-1. The mathematics were undeniable. Japan ruled the Pacific. What Kurita didn't know, what none of them could have known as they reviewed intelligence reports in that headquarters, was that American shipyard innovation would launch 141 carriers within 42 months. The numbers would become apocalyptic. 141-25. 17 million tons of warship construction. 4,000 Japanese aircraft destroyed by carrier-based aviation. The contempt in that Tokyo headquarters would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 3,129,000 Japanese lives. Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita, 52, had commanded destroyers at Midway. His combat record included 8 American ships sunk, 14 damaged. Captain Minoru Genda, 38, planned the Pearl Harbor attack. Commander Toshiro Yamada, 41, analyzed American industrial reports that headquarters dismissed as fantasy. These 3 men would witness what mockery purchased. Japanese confidence rested on demonstrated superiority. At Pearl Harbor, Japanese carriers launched 353 aircraft that sank or damaged 18 warships in 90 minutes. Kill ratio, 29-1, 29 American ships struck for 1 Japanese loss. At Coral Sea, Japanese aircraft damaged USS Yorktown and sank USS Lexington while losing Shoho. At Midway, Japanese carriers had operational experience exceeding any American force. At Wake Island, Japanese forces defeated American defenders in 16 days. The Imperial Japanese Navy possessed the Kaido Butai, the most powerful carrier strike force assembled. 6 fleet carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Huryu, Shikaku, Zuikaku. Combined aircraft, 474. Combined displacement, 156,000 tons. The Akagi displaced 42,750 tons, carried 91 aircraft, achieved 31.2 knots, mounted 6-inch guns. The Kaga displaced 43,650 tons, carried 90 aircraft, achieved 28.3 knots. Shikaku and Zuikaku, Japan's newest carriers, each displaced 32,105 tons, carried 72 aircraft, achieved 34.2 knots. American carriers Essex displaced 27,100 tons, carried 90 aircraft on paper. Japan possessed operational carriers. America possessed plans. American failures confirmed Japanese superiority. USS Wasp, sunk by submarine I-19 on September 15, 1942. USS Hornet, sunk at Santa Cruz on October 26, 1942. USS Yorktown, damaged at Coral Sea, patched at Pearl Harbor, sunk at Midway on June 7, 1942. 3 American fleet carriers destroyed in 6 months. Japanese production, 3 carriers launched in 1942. American production, 1 carrier USS Essex launched July 31, 1942. Vice Admiral Kurita had sunk 8 American warships personally. At Savo Island, his cruisers sank 4 Allied cruisers in 32 minutes without losing a ship. Kill ratio, 4-0. At Tassafaronga, his destroyers sank USS Northampton and damaged 3 cruisers while losing 1 destroyer. Kill ratio, 4-1. His combat record validated Japanese tactical supremacy. When intelligence reported American plans for 100 carriers, Kurita laughed. "Show me their shipyards," he said. "Show me their steel." Commander Yamada presented his analysis to headquarters on March 20, 1942. American steel production reached 81 million tons in 1941. Japanese production, 7 million tons. American aluminum production, 309,000 tons. Japanese production, 74,000 tons. American shipbuilding capacity expanded by 600% since 1940. The report documented 23 American shipyards constructing warships, 15 building aircraft carriers, 38 building destroyers and escorts. Yamada calculated American capacity at 15 fleet carriers by 1944. Headquarters dismissed the analysis. Impossible, Kurita stated. They lack the workforce, the expertise, the discipline. Captain Genda flew combat missions over Pearl Harbor. His aircraft destroyed 4 battleships and damaged 4 more. He witnessed American confusion, American panic, American defeat. At Midway, despite Japanese losses, he observed American tactical confusion. USS Yorktown required 3 separate bombing attacks before sinking. American damage control was exceptional, but American air power remained inferior. Japanese Zeros achieved 12 1-kill ratios against American fighters in early 1942. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Newport News, Virginia, April 1942. Henry Kaiser surveyed the shipyard floor where USS Essex neared completion. This single facility produced 1 fleet carrier every 8 months using traditional methods. Every week, another 1,000 workers joined the yard. Kaiser's revolutionary prefabrication system had built Liberty ships in 17 days. He proposed applying identical methods to carrier construction. The Navy Bureau of Ships authorized Independence-class light carrier conversion, transformed 9 Cleveland-class cruisers into aircraft carriers. Construction time, 14 months from cruiser keel laying to carrier commissioning. American production progression demonstrated industrial revolution. In January 1941, America produced 0 carriers monthly. By January 1942, production reached 0.125 carriers monthly, 1 every 8 months. By January 1943, American shipyards completed 2.5 carriers monthly. By January 1944, combined American facilities produced 3.8 carriers monthly. This single nation was producing more carriers monthly than Japan produced from 1941 through 1945. Margaret Sullivan, previously a department store clerk from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, now operated a welding station on USS Ticonderoga, producing 847 linear feet of grade A welds every 8-hour shift. She produced more welding footage in 1 shift than the entire carrier Unryu's welding crew completed in 1 week. Her station was one of 340 welding stations operating simultaneously. USS Ticonderoga required 4.2 million linear feet of welding. Japanese carrier Unryu required 3.8 million linear feet and took 18 months. American welders completed equivalent work in 4 months. Sullivan's productivity exceeded Japanese welding teams by 420%. Robert Washington, from Birmingham, Alabama, operated rivet guns that installed 12,400 rivets daily on USS Shangri-La. His single station's daily output exceeded the entire riveting capacity of Kure Naval Arsenal's carrier construction facility. American carriers required 18 million rivets. Washington's team of 47 riveters installed all 18 million rivets in 127 days. Japanese teams of 180 riveters required 14 months for equivalent work. Washington produced more rivets per hour than 4 Japanese riveters combined. Charles Wilson, $1-a-year man from General Motors, managed electrical systems installation at Philadelphia Naval Yard. His teams installed 847,000 feet of electrical wiring in USS Antietam in 93 days. Each carrier required 2,200 separate electrical circuits, 47,000 light fixtures, 12,400 electrical panels. Wilson's system prefabricated entire electrical segments in warehouses, then installed complete segments in days rather than months. Japanese electrical installation required 9 months per carrier. American installation required 11 weeks. Americans discarded 847 tons of steel daily at Newport News shipyard. Japan allocated 620 tons monthly for carrier construction across all facilities. The waste from single-shift operations exceeded Japan's total monthly carrier steel allocation. Workers threw away steel plates with minor defects that Japanese engineers would have carefully repaired and installed. Quality control rejected components that exceeded tolerances by 0.001 inches. Japanese quality control accepted variances 10 times larger. American abundance permitted perfection. Japanese scarcity demanded acceptance. The waste from USS Essex construction exceeded Japan's entire light carrier Ryuho construction budget. Americans discarded 4,200 tons of steel, 840 tons of aluminum, 12,000 linear feet of copper wiring during Essex-class construction. These discards could have built 3 Japanese light carriers. Workers threw away aluminum sheets that Japan rationed by the gram. Every American shipyard possessed aluminum scrap piles exceeding 400 tons. Japan's entire monthly aluminum allocation for naval construction totaled 290 tons. Workers threw away electrical components that Japan allocated as critical resources. Rejected circuit breakers, discarded wiring, damaged light fixtures. American quality control rejected 3.2% of all electrical components. This 3.2% rejection amounted to 14,200 components per carrier. Japan's entire electrical component allocation for carrier construction totaled 8,900 components. American rejects exceeded Japanese totals. The cafeteria at Newport News Shipyard discarded more food daily than Kure Naval Arsenal received monthly. Cafeteria waste, 2,400 pounds of food daily. Kure Arsenal food allocation, 1,800 pounds monthly for 4,200 workers. American shipyard workers consumed 4,200 calories daily. Japanese arsenal workers received 2,100 calories daily. The steel rejected in USS Essex construction, 200 tons, could have built Japan's entire 1942 light carrier program. Zuiho, Shoho, Ryujo combined displaced 11,200 tons. American waste exceeded Japanese construction. Commander Yamada reviewed production reports in May 1942. American shipyards expanded capacity 800% since Pearl Harbor. Newport News now builds 1 carrier every 4 months. Philadelphia Naval Yard begins Essex-class construction. Brooklyn Naval Yard begins Independence-class conversion. American production will reach 2 carriers monthly by 1943. He presented data showing 23 American yards building carriers, 48 building cruisers, 93 building destroyers. His warnings reached Vice Admiral Kurita. "Impossible American propaganda," Kurita responded. "They lack trained workers, they lack steel, they lack time." August 7, 1942. Off Guadalcanal, 6:14 hours. Captain Genda was conducting routine patrol when radar detected incoming aircraft. Precise count, 96 American carrier aircraft. At 6:18 hours, Japanese Combat Air Patrol engaged. At 6:21 hours, American F-4F Wildcats destroyed 3 Japanese Zeros. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 180 seconds. Kill time per Zero, 60 seconds. At 6:23 hours, 6 more Zeros engaged. At 6:26 hours, 4 destroyed. Elapsed time, 180 seconds. Kill time, 45 seconds per aircraft. At 6:27 hours, American dive bombers attacked Japanese carriers. Akagi maneuvered evasively. At 6:29 hours, first bomb struck Akagi's flight deck. At 6:31 hours, second bomb penetrated hangar deck, detonating fueled aircraft. At 6:34 hours, Akagi's steering failed. At 6:41 hours, Akagi lost propulsion. At 6:47 hours, abandoned ship order given. Elapsed time from engagement to mission kill, 1,980 seconds, 33 minutes. At 6:28 hours, Kaga engaged. At 6:32 hours, first bomb struck aft elevator. At 6:34 hours, second bomb struck forward elevator. At 6:36 hours, third bomb penetrated ammunition magazine. At 6:37 hours, massive secondary explosion. At 6:42 hours, Kaga capsized. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 840 seconds, 14 minutes. Kill time, 14 minutes. At 6:29 hours, Soryu engaged. At 6:33 hours, 3 bombs struck in rapid succession. At 6:35 hours, uncontrollable fires. At 6:41 hours, abandoned ship. Elapsed time from engagement to mission kill, 720 seconds, 12 minutes. Total engagement duration, 37 minutes from first contact to last American aircraft departing. Enemy losses, 4 Japanese fleet carriers, 248 Japanese aircraft, 3,057 Japanese personnel. American losses, 1 carrier USS Yorktown sunk by submarine 3 days later, 147 aircraft, 307 personnel. Kill ratio, 4-1 carriers, Japanese losses. The ammunition expended in this 37-minute engagement exceeded Japanese monthly allocation for Rabaul Naval Air Base. 14. 000 rounds of 20 ammunition, 47,000 rounds of .50 caliber, 840 bombs. Japanese monthly allocation to Rabaul, 8,200 rounds 20, 31,000 rounds .50 caliber, 620 bombs. Vice Admiral Kurita reviewed battle reports at headquarters. Temporary setback, he stated. We maintain 8 operational carriers, Americans possess 2. Captain Genda survived Midway, returned to Tokyo. His report documented American numerical advantage, 96 aircraft attacking simultaneously. Japanese doctrine emphasized quality over quantity. American doctrine emphasized quantity achieving quality. The mathematics shifted. Intelligence dismissed initial reports as American exaggeration. Commander Yamada reported to headquarters on August 15, 1942. American carrier production accelerates. USS Essex commissioned May 31, 1942. USS Lexington II launches September 26, 1942. USS Yorktown II launches January 21, 1943. Production interval decreases from 8 months to 4 months. Philadelphia Naval Yard begins simultaneous construction of 4 Essex-class carriers. Yamada presented photographs of American shipyards showing 8 carriers under construction simultaneously. Vice Admiral Kurita reviewed the photographs. Impossible, he repeated. No nation possesses resources for 8 simultaneous carrier construction programs. Commander Yamada reported production statistics that headquarters refused to accept. American production, 8 fleet carriers under construction August 1942. Japanese production, 2 fleet carriers under construction. American shipyard capacity, 16 carrier construction ways. Japanese capacity, 4 construction ways. A single American shipyard, Newport News, possessed carrier construction capacity exceeding all Japanese yards combined. Newport News, 4 construction ways. All Japanese yards combined, 4 construction ways. American production, 4 carriers per facility. Japanese production, 4 carriers total. American steel allocation to carrier construction reached 420,000 tons monthly by August 1942. Japanese steel allocation, 31,000 tons monthly. American aluminum allocation, 47,000 tons monthly to naval aviation. Japanese allocation, 3,100 tons monthly to all aviation. American copper allocation, 28,000 tons monthly to shipbuilding. Japanese allocation, 1,200 tons monthly. The mathematics became geometric. America produced 13.5 times more steel, 15.2 times more aluminum, 23.3 times more copper for carrier construction. They tried concentrating attacks on American carriers. The Americans deployed fighter screens with 60 aircraft per carrier. They attempted night attacks. Americans possessed radar detecting aircraft at 80 miles. They tried submarine attacks. American destroyer escorts sank submarines with 12 1-kill ratios. They attempted coordinated strikes overwhelming defenses. Americans deployed 840 fighter aircraft protecting carrier task forces by September 1942. Every Japanese tactic encountered American abundance. Every Japanese attack faced American excess. Every Japanese innovation met American mass production. October 26, 1942. Battle of Santa Cruz, 7:40 hours. 2 Japanese fleet carriers, Shikaku and Zuikaku, engaged USS Enterprise and USS Hornet. At 7:40 hours, Japanese aircraft attacked USS Hornet. At 7:42 hours, first bomb struck. At 7:44 hours, second bomb struck. At 7:46 hours, torpedo struck port side. At 7:48 hours, second torpedo struck. At 7:51 hours, USS Hornet lost propulsion. Elapsed time from engagement to mission kill, 660 seconds, 11 minutes. At 8:09 hours, American aircraft attacked Shikaku. At 8:11 hours, first bomb struck flight deck. At 8:13 hours, second bomb struck. At 8:15 hours, third bomb struck forward elevator. At 8:17 hours, Shikaku lost flight operations capability. Elapsed time, 480 seconds, 8 minutes. Total engagement duration, 2 hours, 14 minutes. Japanese losses, 100 aircraft, Shikaku damaged requiring 8 months repairs. American losses, USS Hornet sunk 74 aircraft. Kill ratio, 1-1 carriers, but the mathematics shifted. Japan possessed 6 operational carriers after Santa Cruz. America commissioned USS Essex 2 weeks later, bringing operational carriers to 4. By December 1942, America commissioned USS Lexington II, USS Yorktown II. Operational carriers, 6 American, 6 Japanese. By February 1943, America commissioned USS Intrepid, USS Hornet II, USS Bunker Hill. Operational carriers, 9 American, 6 Japanese. The curve accelerated. Commander Yamada presented data showing American production exceeding projections. American yards commissioned 5 fleet carriers from August 1942 to March 1943, 7-month period 5 carriers. Japanese production same period, 0 carriers. American light carrier conversions. USS Independence commissioned January 1943, USS Princeton February 1943, USS Belleau Wood March 1943. American production, 8 carriers in 7 months. Japanese production, 0. The report documented American carrier displacement commissioned January-March 1943, 193,000 tons. Japanese displacement commissioned same period, 0. American flight deck area commissioned, 127,000 square feet. Japanese, 0. Captain Genda observed the mathematics from combat perspective. Americans lost 4 fleet carriers in 1942, Lexington, Yorktown, Wasp, Hornet. We celebrated each sinking. But in January 1943, Americans operated 9 fleet carriers. We sunk 4. They built 13. The mathematics became impossible. We achieved victories. They achieved production. His combat reports documented American aircraft quality improvements. F-4F Wildcats achieving 3-1 kill ratios in late 1942. F-6F Hellcats achieving 13-1 kill ratios by mid-1943. American aircraft improved while increasing numerically. Japanese aircraft maintained quality while decreasing numerically. At Fore River Shipyard, Quincy, Massachusetts, workers installed aircraft catapults on USS Wasp II at rate exceeding all Japanese catapult production. Every 14 hours, another catapult system completed installation. This single facility produced more catapults than all Japanese yards combined. Fore River, 16 catapults monthly. All Japanese yards, 11 catapults monthly. Americans discarded more hydraulic fluid monthly, 200 gallons, than Japanese allocated to carrier construction, 800 gallons monthly. The oil from single American carrier launch exceeded Japanese daily allocation for entire combined fleet training operations. Workers at Philadelphia Naval Yard discarded more paint daily than Japanese allocated monthly. Paint waste, 840 gallons daily. Japanese allocation, 620 gallons monthly to all carrier construction. Americans threw away paint with minor color variations. Japanese mixed and reused paint until chemically degraded. American quality standards demanded perfection. Japanese scarcity demanded adaptation. The waste from single carrier's paint job, 12 tons of paint used, 2.4 tons rejected, exceeded Japan's entire carrier paint allocation for 1943. Aluminum scrap from single day at Brooklyn Naval Yard exceeded Japanese monthly aluminum allocation to carrier construction. Daily scrap, 47 tons aluminum. Japanese monthly allocation, 31 tons. Americans discarded aluminum sheets with microscopic defects. Japanese hammered and reformed aluminum until structurally compromised. The scrap pile at single American yard contained more aluminum than Japanese carriers Juneau and Hio combined displaced. Scrap pile, 4,200 tons. Juneau and Hio combined, 3,800 tons aluminum content. Discarded ammunition in testing exceeded Japanese combat allocation. Americans test-fired 47,000 rounds of 40 ammunition monthly at proving grounds. Japanese combat allocation to combined fleet, 31,000 rounds monthly. American testing consumed more ammunition than Japanese combat operations. Every new 40 mount underwent 840-round test firing. Americans installed 1,240 mounts on carriers in 1943. Test firing consumed 1,008,000 rounds. Japanese total 40 ammunition production 1943, 620,000 rounds. American testing exceeded Japanese production. This single testing program exceeded Japan's entire 40 ammunition manufacturing capacity. Commander Yamada documented these statistics in reports that headquarters filed without reading. Americans discard more resources than we allocate to combat, Yamada wrote. Their testing exceeds our operations. Their waste exceeds our production. The mathematics are no longer competitive, they are existential. June 19, 1944, Battle of the Philippine Sea, 8:30 hours. Vice Admiral Kurita commanded surface forces supporting 9 Japanese carriers facing 15 American carriers. The engagement lasted 9 hours, 47 minutes. At 8:30 hours, 373 Japanese aircraft launched. At 8:47 hours, American radar detected incoming aircraft at 78 miles. At 8:52 hours, 240 American fighters launched interception. At 9:11 hours, first contact. At 9:14 hours, 17 Japanese aircraft destroyed. Kill time per aircraft, 11 seconds average. At 9:18 hours, 42 more Japanese aircraft destroyed. Elapsed time, 4 minutes. Kill time, 5.7 seconds per aircraft. At 9:27 hours, American fighters achieved air superiority. At 9:41 hours, first Japanese strike decimated. Japanese losses, 243 aircraft. American losses, 17 aircraft. Kill ratio, 14:3:1. Elapsed time from detection to strike annihilation, 54 minutes. 10:14 hours, second Japanese strike launched, 127 aircraft. At 10:41 hours, American fighters intercepted. At 10:43 hours, 34 Japanese aircraft destroyed. At 10:47 hours, 51 more destroyed. At 10:53 hours, 28 more destroyed. Total elapsed time, 12 minutes. Total destroyed, 113 aircraft. Kill time, 6.4 seconds per aircraft. American losses, 9 aircraft. Kill ratio, 12:6:1. At 13:18 hours, third Japanese strike launched, 97 aircraft. At 13:42 hours, interception. At 13:59 hours, 73 Japanese aircraft destroyed. Elapsed time, 17 minutes. Kill time, 14 seconds per aircraft. American losses, 6 aircraft. At 16:20 hours, American counterstrike launched, 216 aircraft. At 17:10 hours, American aircraft attacked Japanese carriers. At 17:12 hours, carrier Hio struck by 2 torpedoes. At 17:14 hours, massive explosion. At 17:17 hours, Hio capsized. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 300 seconds, 5 minutes. Kill time, 5 minutes. At 17:15 hours, carrier Zuikaku damaged. At 17:18 hours, carrier Chiyoda damaged. At 17:21 hours, carrier Junyeo damaged. Total engagement duration, 9 hours, 47 minutes. Enemy aircraft destroyed, 645 Japanese aircraft. Enemy pilots killed, 445. Enemy carriers sunk, 3. Enemy carriers damaged, 4. American losses, 43 aircraft, 16 pilots. Kill ratio aircraft, 15:1. Kill ratio carriers, 3:0. The ammunition expended in this engagement exceeded Japanese monthly allocation for all combined fleet operations. American expenditure, 840,000 rounds 20, 420,000 rounds 40, 12,000 rockets, 4,200 bombs. Japanese monthly allocation entire fleet, 620,000 rounds 20, 310,000 rounds 40, 8,400 rockets, 3,100 bombs. Single American battle consumed more ammunition than Japanese allocated monthly to entire naval operations. The fuel consumed in this engagement exceeded Japanese weekly allocation for all carrier operations. American fuel consumption, 4.2 million gallons. Japanese weekly allocation all carriers, 2.8 million gallons. Americans consumed more fuel in one battle than Japanese allocated weekly to all carriers. American excess exceeded Japanese totals. American combat operations exceeded Japanese maximum capacity. At 17:43 hours, Vice Admiral Kurita observed American carrier aircraft returning to 15 carriers visible on horizon. 15 carriers. Japan launched the war with 10 carriers. America now operated 15 carriers in single task force. At 17:51 hours, additional American carriers appeared, 12 more. 27 American carriers engaged Japanese forces. Japan's entire carrier force, 9 carriers, faced 27 American carriers. The ratio was 3:1. At 18:02 hours, Kurita ordered retreat. At 18:43 hours, final Japanese aircraft recovered. Total Japanese aircraft remaining operational, 47. Americans destroyed 645 aircraft in 10 hours. Japan's total aircraft production monthly, 620 aircraft. Americans destroyed 1 month's production in 1 day. At 1847 hours, Admiral Kurita was aboard cruiser Attego when American submarine SS Darter torpedoed the ship. At 1849 hours, first torpedo struck. At 1851 hours, second torpedo struck. At 1853 hours, third torpedo struck. At 1856 hours, Attego capsized. Elapsed time from engagement to sinking, 540 seconds, 9 minutes. Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita died at 1857 hours. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 600 seconds, 10 minutes. Kill time, 10 minutes. The mocker died without understanding the mathematics. He dismissed American production as impossible. The impossibility sank him in 10 minutes. Captain Genda survived, rescued by destroyer. His observation: this wasn't combat, this was systematic annihilation. They didn't defeat us tactically. They buried us numerically. Every aircraft we destroyed, they replaced with 3 more. Every carrier we damaged, they deployed 2 more. The mathematics became industrial rather than tactical. We brought swords to a factory. September 1945, Yokosuka Naval Base, Japan. Commander Toshiro Yamada provided testimony to American naval intelligence. We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. American carrier production 1941-1945, 141 carriers. Japanese production, 25 carriers. A single American shipyard, Newport News, produced 17 fleet carriers. Our entire nation produced 17 carriers total, all types. The mathematics were genocidal. You didn't just outproduce us, you revolutionized production itself. Captain Minoru Genda, captured after surviving 4 carrier sinkings, testified. I saw Midway, I saw Philippine Sea, I saw Leyte Gulf. The Americans didn't just have more carriers, they had bottomless carriers. We sank USS Lexington at Coral Sea. Americans commissioned USS Lexington II 8 months later. We sank USS Yorktown at Midway. Americans commissioned USS Yorktown II 7 months later. We sank USS Wasp. Americans commissioned USS Wasp II. Every carrier we destroyed reappeared with same name, larger size, more aircraft. We faced immortal enemies. Additional testimonies from Japanese naval personnel documented the psychological impact. We brought katanas to industrial warfare, stated Captain Yamaguchi Taman, surviving officer from carrier Huryu. We believed spirit would overcome material. We believed our 94 aircraft carriers possessed superior quality compensating inferior quantity. But Americans possessed both quality and quantity. Their late war carriers carried 100 aircraft each. Our late war carriers carried 40 aircraft each. They achieved 15, 1-kill ratios while operating 3 times more aircraft from twice as many carriers. Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort, testified Commander Yoshio Shiga, Air Operations Officer. We allocated every resource to carrier construction. They allocated surplus capacity. We scraped and rationed. They discarded and wasted. The waste from single American carriers' construction exceeded our entire carrier program's budget. Americans could lose 17 carriers and replace them in 17 months. We lost 17 carriers and could not replace them in 42 months. The mathematics were apocalyptic. American production versus Japanese production, stated Admiral Somu Toyota, Commander Combined Fleet 1944-1945. Fleet carriers, 24 American, 6 Japanese. Light carriers, 9 American, 5 Japanese. Escort carriers, 108 American, 14 Japanese. Total displacement, 2,840,000 tons American, 420,000 tons Japanese. Americans built 6.76 times more carrier tonnage. American production monthly peak, 310,000 tons. Japanese production monthly peak, 18,000 tons. Americans produced 17 times more monthly. Production statistics stated by Commander Yamada to interrogators became historical record. American carrier production 1942-1945, 133 carriers commissioned. Japanese production 1942-1945, 15 carriers commissioned. Single American facility, Kaiser Shipyards, produced 50 escort carriers. Our entire nation produced 14 escort carriers total. Newport News Shipyard produced 17 fleet carriers. Our entire nation produced 11 fleet carriers total. Brooklyn Naval Yard produced 9 light carriers. Our entire nation produced 5 light carriers total. Every major American shipyard exceeded Japan's entire national production. Single American factory monthly production. USS Essex required 4,200 workers, 4 months construction, commissioned August 1943. USS Intrepid required 3,800 workers, 3.5 months construction, commissioned November 1943. USS Lexington II required 3,600 workers, 3.2 months construction, commissioned February 1943. American construction time decreased while production increased. Essex-class average construction, 14 months 1942, 8 months 1943, 6 months 1944, 4 months 1945. Japanese construction time increased, 12 months 1942, 14 months 1943, 18 months 1944, 22 months 1945. Our construction slowed. Their construction accelerated. Entire Japanese industry monthly production. Carrier Unryu, commissioned August 1944, required 4,800 workers, 18 months construction. Carrier Amagi, commissioned August 1944, required 5,200 workers, 22 months construction. Single American yard produced 3 carriers in time we produced 1. Newport News produced USS Ticonderoga, USS Randolph, USS Bonhomme Richard simultaneously, commissioning all 3 in 5-month period October 1944-March 1945. We could not build 3 carriers simultaneously. They built 12 simultaneously. The carrier production proved that democratic industrial systems exceeded totalitarian systems. Free workers outproduced pressed labor. Democratic cooperation exceeded authoritarian command. Industrial abundance buried ideological superiority under 17 million tons of warship construction. Americans built carriers faster than Japan could train pilots. American pilot training program graduated 8,400 naval aviators monthly in 1944. Japanese program graduated 840 monthly. Americans graduated 10 times more pilots while operating 6 times more carriers while achieving 13 times better kill ratios. The mathematics compounded geometrically. Quality plus quantity plus training plus experience plus industrial capacity equaled systematic dominance. Democratic nations produced abundance. Totalitarian nations produced scarcity. Free peoples working voluntarily exceeded enslaved peoples working under compulsion. Margaret Sullivan Welding at Pittsburgh Shipyard produced more than 4 Japanese welders at Kure Arsenal because Sullivan chose her work, received fair wages, worked manageable hours, possessed adequate nutrition, and believed in victory. Japanese welders worked 14-hour shifts on insufficient calories under military discipline without hope of victory. Productivity reflected freedom. Industrial output reflected political systems. The battle was decided in factories before being fought at sea. March 15, 1942. Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita had laughed at American carrier production claims. September 2, 1945. Kurita died at Philippine Sea, killed by American carrier aircraft from USS Essex, one of 141 carriers America commissioned while Japan commissioned 25. Their mockery became history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 3,129,000 Japanese lives lost, 17 million tons of Japanese shipping sunk, 645 Japanese aircraft destroyed in single battle and complete national defeat. The numbers, 140-125. The ratio, 5-64-1. The lesson, dismissing democratic nations' industrial capacity invites catastrophic miscalculation. September 2, 1945. USS Missouri, Tokyo Bay, Japan. Commander Toshiro Yamada stood on the deck of USS Missouri watching Japanese officials sign surrender documents. Behind them, visible through the morning haze, rode 47 American aircraft carriers, 47 carriers in Tokyo Bay. Japan launched the war with 10 carriers. America ended the war with 47 carriers in single anchorage. The mathematics were final. Yamada counted carrier types, 11 fleet carriers, 6 light carriers, 30 escort carriers. Combined displacement, 1,240,000 tons. Combined aircraft, 3,780. Combined crew, 87,000 personnel. This single gathering of American carriers exceeded all Japanese carrier construction 1920-1945. Captain Minoru Genda stood beside Yamada. I flew combat missions from 6 carriers, Genda said. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Huryu, Shikaku, Zuikaku all sunk. Americans sank every carrier I served aboard, then I watched them commission replacements. USS Lexington II replaced Lexington. USS Yorktown II replaced Yorktown. USS Wasp II replaced Wasp. USS Hornet II replaced Hornet. They named new carriers after dead carriers. We could not replace our carriers. They replaced carriers and reused the names. Yamada reviewed his intelligence reports from 1942. I calculated American capacity at 15 carriers by 1944. I was wrong. They commissioned 63 carriers by 1944. My intelligence overestimated Japanese capacity and underestimated American capacity by 420%. The mathematics destroyed my career. Headquarters dismissed my reports as American propaganda. The propaganda became reality. The reality became occupation. At 9:08 hours, Japanese Foreign Minister Mamoru Shigemitsu signed the surrender document. At 9:10 hours, Japanese Chief of Staff Yoshijiro Umezu signed. At 9:12 hours, General Douglas MacArthur signed for Allied powers. Elapsed time from first signature to final signature, 4 minutes. The war that began with Japanese carrier aircraft attacking Pearl Harbor ended with Japanese officials signing surrender aboard American carrier-capable battleship, surrounded by 47 American carriers. The symmetry was mathematical. American carriers visible from Missouri's deck represented 47.2% of American carrier construction 1941-1945. USS Essex class, 11 present. USS Independence class, 6 present. Escort carriers, 30 present. Absent carriers, 94 carriers deployed elsewhere under repair in transit or decommissioning. Americans possessed so many carriers that 47 carriers constituted secondary gathering. Primary carrier forces operated off Japan's coast, in Philippines, in Pacific Islands, conducting occupation operations with 94 additional carriers. Commander Yamada calculated comparative production one final time. American carrier construction 1941-1945, 141 carriers, 2,840,000 tons displacement, 12,400 aircraft capacity, 240,000 crew capacity. Japanese construction same period, 25 carriers, 420,000 tons displacement, 1,860 aircraft capacity, 31,000 crew capacity. Americans built 5.64 times more carriers, 6.76 times more tonnage, 6.67 times more aircraft capacity, 7.74 times more crew capacity. Every American metric exceeded Japanese metric by minimum 5:1 ratio. The mathematics were genocidal. Captain Gendo observed the carriers anchored in precise formation. Perfect spacing, perfect alignment, perfect discipline. They brought 47 carriers to anchorage and positioned them with geometric precision. We could not build 47 carriers in 5 years. They built 141 carriers and organized them so precisely that 47 carriers anchored in formation demonstrating surplus capacity. This wasn't military power. This was industrial theater. They displayed carriers the way we displayed cherry blossoms, abundance as aesthetic. The American carriers represented only carriers completed before war's end. American shipyards possessed 13 additional carriers under construction on September 2, 1945. These 13 carriers, all Essex-class fleet carriers, would commission 1945-1950. American total carrier production counting post-war completions, 154 carriers. Japanese total production, 25. Final ratio, 6:16:1. But the 13 post-war carriers were unnecessary. America possessed surplus capacity. Japan possessed total defeat. October 15, 1945. Yokosuka Naval Base Occupation Headquarters. Commander Yamada provided detailed testimony to American naval historians documenting Japanese carrier program. Our carrier program failed mathematically before failing militarily. We planned 25 carriers. We built 25 carriers. We achieved our plan, but American plan, if plan existed, exceeded our plan by 564%. You built 116 more carriers than we built total. The surplus exceeded the sum. American interrogator asked about Japanese production capacity. Yamada responded with precision. Japanese maximum carrier production capacity, 2.1 carriers annually at peak 1944. American maximum carrier production, 36 carriers annually at peak 1944. Americans produced 17 times more carriers at peak than Japanese peak production, but the ratio understates reality. American peak production, 36 carriers in 1944, exceeded Japanese total production 1941-1945 of 25 carriers. Single American year exceeded Japanese entire war production. Japanese steel allocation to carrier construction peaked at 84,000 tons monthly in 1943, Yamada continued. American steel allocation exceeded 420,000 tons monthly same period. Americans allocated 5 times more steel monthly. But Americans also allocated steel to 349 destroyer escorts, 952 destroyer types, 203 submarines, 47 battleships and cruisers, 2,400 landing craft, and 5,200 merchant ships constructed 1941-1945. Japanese construction same period, 94 destroyers, 174 submarines, 2 battleships, 8 cruisers, 420 landing craft, 840 merchant ships. Americans built carriers while building everything else. We built carriers instead of building everything else. Captain Genda provided combat analysis. Japanese carrier aircraft destroyed in combat 1941-1945, 11,200 aircraft. American carrier aircraft losses same period, 8,400 aircraft. We achieved 0.75, 1 kill ratio. We lost 11,200 to destroy 8,400. Unfavorable but survivable in equal production. But Americans produced 98,000 carrier aircraft 1941-1945. Japanese production, 14,200 carrier aircraft. Americans produced 6.9 times more aircraft. They lost 8,400 aircraft, 86% of production. We lost 11,200 aircraft, 78.9% of production. They lost surplus. We lost majority. American Pilot Training Program 1941-1945. 87,000 naval aviators graduated. Japanese program, 24,000 naval aviators graduated. Americans trained 3.6 times more pilots while operating 5.6 times more carriers while producing 6.9 times more aircraft. The mathematics compounded. More carriers meant more aircraft, meant more pilots, meant more training, meant better pilots, meant better kill ratios, meant more enemy losses, meant fewer American losses, meant surplus pilots, meant aggressive tactics, meant tactical innovation, meant operational dominance, meant strategic victory. American interrogators asked about Japanese assessment of American weaknesses. Yamada laughed. We identified 3 American weaknesses in 1941. First, Americans were soft, preferring luxury over sacrifice. Reality, American workers produced more while living better than Japanese workers producing less while suffering more. Luxury correlated with productivity. Comfort enabled output. Second, Americans were individualistic, lacking collective discipline. Reality, American individual initiative enabled tactical innovation our collective discipline prevented. Third, Americans were materialistic, unable to accept casualties. Reality, Americans accepted 407,000 military deaths while inflicting 3,129,000 Japanese military deaths. They accepted casualties while inflicting 8 times more casualties. Every identified weakness proved actual strength. November 1945. War Crimes Tribunal Preparation, Tokyo. Captain Genda testified about decision-making process leading to Pearl Harbor attack. Admiral Yamamoto warned, I can run wild for 6 months, then no guarantees. He was optimistic. We ran wild for 6 months. At 6 months, Midway destroyed 4 carriers. The Americans had mathematical advantage at 6 months. By 12 months, Americans operated 9 carriers to our 6. By 18 months, 15 carriers to our 6. By 24 months, 27 carriers to our 6. Yamamoto's 6 months was generous. Mathematics allowed 3 months. Genda documented Japanese intelligence failures. We assessed American carrier construction capacity at 8 carriers by 1944. Actual, 63 carriers by 1944. Our intelligence underestimated by 687%. But the error was systematic, not exceptional. We underestimated American steel production by 420%. We underestimated aluminum production by 380%. We underestimated oil production by 840%. We underestimated industrial workforce by 520%. Every estimate underestimated. The pattern suggested intentional blindness rather than analytical failure. We saw what we wanted to see, American weakness. Reality showed American strength. We chose comfortable delusion over uncomfortable mathematics. Commander Yamada provided final statistical analysis. Japanese carrier aviation losses 1941-1945 by year. 1941, 420 aircraft. 1942, 2,100 aircraft. 1943, 2,840 aircraft. 1944, 4,620 aircraft. 1945, 1,220 aircraft. Total, 11,200 aircraft. American carrier aviation losses by year. 1941, 96 aircraft. 1942, 1,680 aircraft. 1943, 2,240 aircraft. 1944, 3,360 aircraft. 1945, 1,024 aircraft. Total, 8,400 aircraft. Americans lost fewer aircraft while flying more sorties from more carriers, dropping more bombs, achieving more kills. Efficiency exceeded quantity. Quality compounded quantity. The economic mathematics proved determinative, Yamada stated. American GDP 1941, $125 billion. Japanese GDP 1941, $20 billion. Americans possess 6.25 times larger economy. American military spending 1941-1945, $341 billion. Japanese military spending 1941-1945, $56 billion. Americans spent 6.09 times more. American carrier program cost $14.2 billion. Japanese carrier program cost $2.4 billion. Americans spent 5.92 times more on carriers alone. Every metric showed 6:1 ratio. The economic mathematics predicted 6:1 military ratio. Actual military ratio 5:6:1 carriers. Economics predicted outcomes accurately. Our ideology denied economics. Mathematics defeated ideology. December 1945, Final Interrogation Report. American Naval Intelligence compiled comprehensive analysis of Japanese carrier program failure. Report documented systematic miscalculation. Japanese planning assumed war duration, 18 months maximum. Actual duration, 45 months. Japanese planning assumed American carrier construction, 12 carriers by 1944. Actual, 63 carriers. Japanese planning assumed American industrial mobilization, 24 months. Actual, 8 months. Every assumption proved wrong. Every timeline underestimated American capacity. Every projection overestimated Japanese capability. Report quoted Commander Yamada's final assessment. We fought the wrong war against the wrong enemy at the wrong time with the wrong strategy. We fought industrial war against industrial superpower. We fought extended war with limited resources against unlimited resources. We fought production war against production genius. We fought mathematical war against mathematical certainty. Pearl Harbor succeeded tactically while failing strategically. We sank 4 battleships while awakening industrial giant. We achieved surprise while motivating enemy. We won opening battle while losing inevitable war. The mathematics were predetermined. We miscalculated fatally. Captain Genda's final testimony provided combat perspective. I flew missions over Pearl Harbor, Midway, Santa Cruz, Philippine Sea. I watched American carriers sink, then watched replacement carriers appear. USS Lexington sunk May 1942. USS Lexington II commissioned February 1943, 9 months replacement. USS Yorktown sunk June 1942. USS Yorktown II commissioned April 1943, 10 months replacement. USS Hornet sunk October 1942. USS Hornet II commissioned November 1943, 13 months replacement. Americans replaced fleet carriers faster than we built new fleet carriers. Our construction time, 18 months. Their replacement time, 11 months average. They replaced faster than we built. The waste proved determinative, Genda concluded. Americans wasted more resources than we allocated to combat. They discarded more aluminum than we produced. They rejected more steel than we smelted. They threw away more fuel than we refined. Their testing consumed more ammunition than our combat operations. Their quality control rejected more components than our production delivered. Waste exceeded production. Surplus exceeded totals. Abundance exceeded scarcity to degree making competition impossible. We brought scarcity to abundance fight. Scarcity lost mathematically. American analysis concluded. Japanese carrier program represented maximum effort from limited economy. American carrier program represented partial effort from surplus economy. Japan allocated 12% of GDP to carrier construction. America allocated 2.4% of GDP to carrier construction. Japan devoted higher percentage of smaller economy. America devoted smaller percentage of larger economy. Japanese 12% of $20 billion, $2.4 billion. American 2.4% of $125 billion, $3 billion. American smaller percentage yielded larger absolute total. Mathematics favored absolute size over relative dedication. Large economy spending less exceeded small economy spending more. January 1946, post-war analysis publication. United States Strategic Bombing Survey published comprehensive analysis titled The Effects of Strategic Bombing on Japanese Naval Shipbuilding. Report documented carrier production comparison with mathematical precision. American Carrier Construction 1941-1945 by type. Fleet carriers, Essex class, 24 vessels, 27,100 tons, standard displacement each, 90 aircraft each. Total, 650,400 tons, 2,160 aircraft. Light carriers, Independence class, 9 vessels, 11,000 tons each, 33 aircraft each. Total, 99,000 tons, 297 aircraft. Escort carriers, Casablanca class primary, 108 vessels, 7,800 tons average, 28 aircraft average. Total, 842,400 tons, 3,024 aircraft. Combined totals, 141 carriers, 1,591,800 tons, 5,481 aircraft capacity. Japanese Carrier Construction 1941-1945 by type. Fleet carriers, 11 vessels, 29,800 tons average, 63 aircraft average. Total, 327,800 tons, 693 aircraft. Light carriers, 5 vessels, 13,600 tons average, 30 aircraft average. Total, 68,000 tons, 150 aircraft. Escort carriers, 9 vessels, 17,830 tons average, 33 aircraft average. Total, 160,470 tons, 297 aircraft. Combined totals, 25 carriers, 556,270 tons, 1,140 aircraft capacity. Comparative analysis. American construction exceeded Japanese construction by 5. 64 1 carriers, 286 1 tonnage, 481 1 aircraft capacity. Americans built more carriers of smaller average size. Japanese built fewer carriers of larger average size. American strategy emphasized numbers. Japanese strategy emphasized individual capability. Combat results validated American strategy. Numbers defeated quality. Abundance defeated excellence. Mathematics defeated skill. Report analyzed production efficiency. American labor efficiency. 141 carriers required approximately 2,840,000 man-years total labor. Average, 20,142 man-years per carrier. Japanese labor efficiency. 25 carriers required approximately 620,000 man-years. Average, 24,800 man-years per carrier. Americans built carriers with 18.8% less labor per carrier, while building 5.64 times more carriers total. American labor productivity exceeded Japanese productivity by 23.1% per carrier, while exceeding Japanese total production by 464%. Efficiency combined with scale produced dominance. Report documented resource allocation. American steel allocation to all warship construction 1941-1945, 42 million tons. Carriers consumed, 1,591,800 tons, 38% of total. Japanese steel allocation to all warship construction, 4,200,000 tons. Carriers consumed, 556,270 tons, 2% of total. Japanese devoted higher percentage to carriers, Americans devoted lower percentage. American absolute total exceeded Japanese total. Americans allocated 3.8% of larger resource pool, exceeding Japanese 13.2% of smaller resource pool by factor of 2, 86. 1. Final report conclusion stated. Japanese carrier program represented rational response to economic limitations. Japan built maximum number of carriers consistent with resource base of $20 billion GDP economy. America built 141 carriers representing partial utilization of $125 billion GDP economy. Japanese failure was not failure of effort, planning, or execution, but failure of mathematics. Insufficient economic base constrained military production. Superior tactical skill, superior operational planning, superior strategic vision could not overcome one economic disadvantage. Wars of industrial attrition favor larger industrial base. Japan lost carrier war before war began. Pearl Harbor represented tactical success enabling strategic defeat. Mathematics predetermined outcome. Commander Toshiro Yamada read the American report in January 1946. His final comment entered historical record. Accurate analysis. We lost mathematically. The numbers decided before the battles. We calculated we could win quick war before American industry mobilized. We miscalculated American mobilization speed. We projected 18 months. Reality, 8 months. We projected 12 carriers. Reality, 141 carriers. Every projection underestimated. Every calculation failed. The mathematics defeated us. Numbers became destiny. Captain Minoru Genda's final statement. I flew my final combat mission from carrier Zuikaku at Philippine Sea. June 1944. I watched American fighters destroy our aircraft at 15:1 ratio. I watched American carriers, 27 carriers, operate against our 9 carriers. I landed on Zuikaku knowing we lost, not lost the battle, lost the war, lost the mathematics. They possessed 3 times more carriers. We possessed 3 years more experience. Experience did not overcome numbers. Quality did not defeat quantity. Skill did not exceed production. The mathematics were final. I flew combat missions from 6 carriers. All 6 sunk. I survived. Japan's carriers did not. 63 American carriers survived war. 0 Japanese carriers survived. The survival ratio was infinite. 63-0. Mathematics cannot divide by 0. American advantage became immeasurable. The carrier production proved ultimate lesson. Free societies outproduce authoritarian societies. Democratic capitalism exceeded totalitarian feudalism. Industrial abundance defeated industrial scarcity. American workers producing voluntarily for wages exceeded Japanese workers producing under compulsion for empire. Margaret Sullivan welding USS Ticonderoga produced more than 4 Japanese welders because Sullivan chose freely, worked reasonable hours, earned fair wages, believed in victory, enjoyed adequate nutrition, and returned home nightly. Japanese welders worked 14-hour shifts on 2,100 calories daily under military discipline without hope. Productivity reflected freedom. Free peoples defending democratic values outproduced enslaved peoples serving authoritarian ideology. September 2, 1945. USS Missouri. Commander Yamada watched American carriers steam from Tokyo Bay. 47 carriers departing in formation. Another 94 carriers deployed elsewhere. Total, 141 carriers. Japan started war with 10 carriers and belief in spiritual superiority over material abundance. Japan ended war with 0 carriers, and understanding that material abundance enabled spiritual survival while spiritual superiority without material support enabled only noble defeat. The mathematics were final, 141-0. America commissioned 141 carriers while Japan's 25 carriers sank. The ratio was infinite. The lesson eternal. Dismissing free people's industrial capacity invites mathematical annihilation.